Friends, this arrogant girl's name is Stilla and she is a very rich father's spoiled daughter. What can I tell you about her richness? Her richness is dripping from her mouth. After leaving the house, the servants lay a red carpet under her feet. She has no other work than buying expensive clothes from Gucci Zara's showroom and roaming in expensive cars. Her father Francis is a very big man who has gained one by his hard work, and dedication. He has become rich by collecting one by his hard work. Apart from Stilla, he also has two other legitimate sons who are equally entitled to his wealth and property. Among them, this fat boy named Philip blows millions of dollars from his father, and in return, he tells him his cheap business ideas in free cut. Francis's other son Alexander is just like the rest of them. And on the pretext of going to college, he celebrates with the wife of the principal. That is, he is clearly a number of girls. Here, Stilla talks and talks. Stilla keeps showing her pride for her money. She does not come out of the house without makeup. Even on the small mistakes of the makeup artist, she becomes a fire on him. She also has a devil named Tom boyfriend, to whom she tells her sorrow that how she looks ugly because of the small mistake of the makeup artist. In return, Tom says, "No, darling, you look like a fairy, you have no answer. And anyway, I love your money, not your beauty, I mean your mind." In fact, Tom is a number one fraudster and he wants to marry Stilla and become a billionaire overnight. Here, the next morning, Philip goes to his father's office and tells him his cheap business idea and asks him for $100 billion for it. Francis had promised him before his wife's death that he would never scold his son. That's why he can't say anything to Philip and gives a photo of Philip and runs away from there. On the other hand, Tom was singing to him with the money of Stilla in a restaurant. There was also a friend of Stilla's, who was flirting with Tom. Seeing this, Stilla gets very jealous and goes to the waiter of that restaurant and starts fighting with him. Then another waiter named Matthew comes there, who is actually Stilla's childhood friend. And his mother also works as a caretaker at Stilla's house for the past 20 years. Matthew here calms Stilla down and sends her from there. Stilla was so arrogant that she could not even give Matthew her friend's status in front of everyone. That night, Francis tells his dead wife the story of those three useless children born from their union. Today, Stilla was going to be 21 years old, that is, today was her birthday. That's why her boyfriend Tom has a very big party with the money of her father, in which he and Stilla together spend millions of dollars. That party had such expensive alcohol that it would cost him my whole year. On the other hand, Francis was cursing himself by looking at his money flying like this. And he was thinking that in what terrible moment he had created these three useless people. Anyway, Stilla takes Tom and reaches directly to her father's table and tells him that she wants to marry Tom. Francis knew that Tom loved his money, not his daughter. That's why he asks Tom, "Son, what do you do? What will you feed my daughter by marrying my daughter? Where will you keep it?" In which Tom says, "Dad, right now I only love your daughter full-time during work. But I will make her a halwa puri. And I can also keep her in the moon and stars by feeding her desi rabri." With all these things, Francis understands that his future son-in-law is living the whole life of a homeless beggar. That's why he tells his daughter to throw this nagar manna from his life like a fly in the ghee. Then Stilla, avoiding her father's words, tells everyone about her and Tom's marriage. Here, Francis then comes to a video in which his eldest son, Philip, was living in a yacht on rent for $10 lakh. Seeing this, Francis's feet start to slip. Then his youngest son, the principal of Alexander's college, comes to him and says, "Francis, at your behest, I got your son a job in our college and your son is doing an affair with my wife." Saying all this, he starts screaming at Francis and Alexander. Here, listening to the voice, Alexander also comes down. And behind him, the principal's half-naked wife and his half-naked two daughters. Now, seeing all these scenes, like every Hindi movie, Francis also gets a heart attack. He is immediately taken from there and thrown in a private hospital, where his three enemies had also come to meet him. Instead of taking care of his father, the three of them were arguing with each other that which of the three is the first number of the enemy. Seeing all this, Francis understands that the dog's leg and the donkey's trunk can never be straightened. That's why he meets his friend and makes a plan to straighten all this. The next morning, we see those three useless people running here and there, saying Papa in the courtyard of the house. Actually, the credit card of those three has been blocked. So they don't have money to spend their free time, and now. By then, he hears the siren of the police from outside, which captures their ministers and their entire property. Now by giving a police fair in their house, the quietly 464 of them are broken. Suddenly Francis comes to them with a gun and hides them from the police. On the way, a man is shown a gun, his car is stolen from him, and Francis takes the three useless people and leaves from there. On the way, Francis tells his three useless people that the manager of his company has made a mistake in paying tax, because of which the income tax people have taken their company, their house, and all their property under their arrest, and that's why they have to run from here now, because they had come down the poverty line and they had no bungalow or mansion to live in. That's why Francis brings those three to his old house, which was occupied by spider webs. There was no AC or fan in that house and they didn't have much to eat. That's why Francis fried those three with fortune oil at night and fed them a piece of bread. Now, after being killed by the mosquitoes all night, Francis wakes up those three in the morning with the kitchen alarm. And he says that he is old now, so he can't do any work. That's why now those three have to earn money by working hard anywhere. Otherwise, they will have to sleep hungry tonight. Now those three had big degrees, but they had to work hard. Also, that house had only one, so they have to use the house together. Well, there Alexander goes to some of the building workers while wandering and eats all their food by making excuses. On the other hand, Stella came out of the house as if she had come to do shopping. On the way, she asked for her phone from a man. She calls her boyfriend Tom and says that she has come on a world tour with his family for a few days. Philip was also not like them. He goes to his friend and tells him about his cheap business idea and asks him for $1 million for it. In which his friend says, "What $1 million that too for this stupid idea?" In which Philip says, "Why, last time when I told you this idea, you were saying that it was a very good idea. So what happened to you today now?" Philip understands all this. Until the time it is in the pocket, the whole city is blind in your love. And when the pocket is empty, then no one in the world is with you. Well, even after asking him for a loan the whole day, they have nothing. Then, after getting off the taxi of Bana, Stella brings a lot of stuff inside the house. Those two brothers think that Stella has brought a lot of food for them. But Stella was also a crazy girl like them who had brought a lot of clothes for herself. Seeing this, the blood of those three fathers and sons is bleeding. Because they don't even have a bowl to eat here. And there Stella has brought so many clothes for herself. When asked, Stella tells them that she didn't have clothes to wear. That's why she blew Philip's expensive watch. And the money she got by selling it, she did this shopping with it. Hearing this, Philip comes in anger and starts chewing his clothes. Because he was very hungry. Meanwhile, taking food in a bucket, Francis' caretaker and his son Matthews come. Francis asks him, "Now who called you here, who gave you the idea of this place?" In which the caretaker says, "Master, Stella called me and she told me that you are going through a bad time. But don't worry, all the money you have given me for so many years, I have deposited it in the bank. You are still alive with the same money, and anyway, that money was yours. Saying this, she is forced to lean in their service. Francis, who worked so hard to improve his useless children, he was watering his whole family. That's why he says to him, "Look, my children have become so capable that they can do their daily work and feed me and myself. That's why you get out of here." Saying this, he shows him the way out of the house. Here, Matthew says to Stella that there is a vacancy on the work of cleaning utensils in his hotel. Saying this, he gives him his card and leaves from there. Anyway, the next day, Philip reaches a company looking for a job for himself. And during the interview, he demands 50,000. He had no experience. That's why, according to his qualifications, that company only had a job of cleaning in 50. Philip Terra is the son of such a big company. So how does he work in 50? That's why he leaves the company's work and takes a rickshaw in the morning. On the other hand, Stella also reaches Matthew's restaurant with her mouth open. And she is ready to clean the utensils at a low salary. Meanwhile, Matthews says to her, "Look, you will have to serve food to people other than cleaning the utensils. And for this, you will also get a separate tip." Anyway, there Philip had to work hard, and on top of that, the other rickshaw driver was sitting his passengers in his rickshaw. Because of which the rickshaw driver fights with Philip. Now those two brothers and sisters were doing some work. But their younger brother Alexander was of no use. And he was resting at home. In the evening, those two brothers and sisters come home with their utensils. Those three were eating pasta in the dinner. But they don't let their younger brother Alexander smell the food. Because he didn't earn. Alexander says, "If you don't feed me pasta, will I be hungry? I can survive by eating the fruits of the jungle." After that, he goes to the jungle and eats some berries. Due to which he starts having allergies all over his body. The next day, Francis asks him, "Son, don't you know anything? You haven't learned anything in life." In which Alexander says that he knows how to do plumbing. Hearing this, Francis's senses fly away. And he asks Alexander, being the son of such a rich father, "When did you learn how to do plumbing, son?" On this, Alexander says, "Dad, actually, in childhood, I had a fight with the principal of the school. And then I mixed the septic tank of the school's lettering with the tank of the head office. And then I learned how to do plumbing for a few days. Anyway, now whatever it is, he knew how to cook." That's why Francis starts repairing the house with him. On the other hand, in the restaurant, a man was repeatedly troubling Stella. After going to this, Stella tells Matthews. Then Matthews says, "You were also so proud of the money that you used to tell us all the same. And today, look, you have to endure all this." After which all the staff of the restaurant spit in the food of that man. And then Stella gives that man the food that he enjoys eating. Because of all this, Stella and Matthews gradually become good friends. That night, the four of them sit together and tell their father their own story. How hard they work today. Anyway, the next day, with Philip, that rickshaw guy fights. Meanwhile, that rickshaw guy looks at the shoes of Philip, which were of a branded company. That rickshaw guy says, "Hey, where did you buy this shoe? This is the original of the Bakabuchi company." Philip says, "I just bought it for 800 euros from a reseller seller." While saying all this, he tells him about the collection of his branded shoes. Actually, that rickshaw guy also had a lot of knowledge of branded shoes like Philip. That's why they make a great plan to earn money together. Actually, those two were thinking about selling old branded shoes at an expensive price by redesigning them again. Anyway, on the other hand, Stella's boyfriend Tom was flirting with a friend of Stella. Then that girl says that she has learned from the caretaker of the house that Stella is no longer rich. Hearing this, Tom thinks that there is something wrong with the doll. That's why he starts investigating about it. The next day, when Francis was laying the potty at home, then Tom comes to him. Here Francis asks him, "Hey boy, who told you we are here? And what have you come here to do?" In which Tom says, "Father-in-law, I know how you are fooling them to improve your children. But don't worry, I won't tell them anything." Until then, all three of Francis's enemies also reach there. Tom tells this lie to Stella that he has sold all the property of his grandfather and paid all the taxes of Francis's company. Hearing this, the three brothers and sisters jump and lift him on their heads. Here Francis also can't say anything to those three. Anyway, after this, the life of those three starts to go back to the way it was before. Meanwhile, one day Tom brings Stella to the court by sitting on his forelegs and says to her that today he wants to marry her. Stella was also ready to give her to him, so she agrees to marry. On the other hand, Francis also knew about Stella and Tom's marriage, so he calls Stella. Here, instead of Stella, Tom receives that phone. And without listening to any of Francis's words, he cuts the call and turns the phone off. Now, before marriage in court, Tom asks Stella to sign a document, in which it was written that after marriage, they don't know, but they will become 50-50 owners of their property. That is, just by marrying one, Tom was going to become the owner of millions of dollars. But before they get married, Francis reaches there with both his sons and says, "Daughter, don't marry that traitor, he just wants to take advantage of my helplessness and take off your panties. And he also wants to rob my hard-earned money. Actually, the poor people we were for so many days were actually my doings. I was afraid that you would be useless, so I played this game to make you three clever." Hearing this, the three of them break completely and break up with Francis and break all relations. At the same time, Stella gives Tom a big slap because he was also looting his benefit. After that, Francis has to live alone in his Elysian palace, because the three of them left him and shifted to that old house. Now, a few months pass like this. Philip, along with that rickshaw driver, redesigned old shoes and opened a business to sell them, because of which he was also making a lot of profit. On the other hand, Stella also takes a loan from the bank and opens her own restaurant. Alexander also orders the pipeline in the big buildings and makes people's lettering. That is, the three of them are now standing on their own feet. Today is Stella's 22nd birthday. That's why Francis comes to meet the three of them, because he was feeling a lot of lack of the three of them. Going inside the house, he apologizes to the three of them and says happy birthday to Stella. "Children, whatever I have done so far, I did it for your benefit, and if I hadn't taken this decision that day, you wouldn't have been able to reach this height today and would have been a crazy guy." Saying this, Francis leaves from there. Here, the three of them also understand what their father says and they don't let their father go like this. After that, they all celebrate Stella's birthday together. And friends, with this, the story of this movie also ends. Thank you.